Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey everyone, welcome in. New edition of Celtics Beat. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a wonderful, restful, relaxing day filled with the F words, right? Family, friends, food, football, whatever else you could come up with. I hope it was a wonderful day that you enjoyed with everybody. And we're right back at it here to kind of close out your holiday weekend, even though technically as we record this, it is a Saturday. I don't know what everybody's schedules are. Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti, we're always here. Dan Greenberg is here with us. And Dan, happy Thanksgiving to you and to you, Ev, obviously. I got to start with this. I had kind of have for the last, I don't know how many shows, like we'll do our little intro that we're not on camera for. So for the YouTube audience, you don't see or hear this part, but people who listen to the podcast, you know, we always go into it. Episode X of the show featuring so-and-so, powered by whomever. And so we just do this. This is number 600.
Crazy. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We haven't done all 600, but we've done, I don't know, what we figured it out at one point in time. 300, 250. We've done a lot of them. We've done damn near half, if not half. But for the last however many shows, it's been like, man, what do we do for 600? What do we do for 600? And I got to be honest, maybe it was the holiday, just everything else. It couldn't have been more distant from my brain that this was going to be episode 600. And yet, here we sit, and I think it's actually incredibly appropriate that we be joined by not only a good friend of the program who's on with us all the time, but also about as big a Celtics fan as you will come across in your lives. I mean, what a way to bring in, you know, a milestone show than with a milestone fan like Dan Greenberg.
Well, thank you. It's honestly, it hasn't always been, you know, butterflies and rainbows. You know what I mean? We've been through the depths of hell, and I just think now we should just enjoy the fruits of our labor and our commitment and our loyalty. And I can't imagine it's getting better than what we're seeing now. So if there's a time to hop on the bandwagon, I'd say, you know, this is a pretty good one if you're on the fence still.
I do hope that people out there, I mean, if you're a listener of this show, I imagine I don't need to say this, but maybe you're a casual listener, or maybe you're in the car and you're just sort of riding along with someone who is a diehard that put this on and is forcing you to listen to it. Understand, as Dan alluded to, that like this is not normal. It may feel normal because we've kind of gotten used to it, and you know we've been watching the growth and development and ascension of the Jays, Tatum and Brown, and now it's like, man, this is our day-to-day. This is what happens. This is what, when you get spoiled by, you know, 20 years of dominance watching the Patriots led by Belichick and Brady, and so it's always going to be like this. And then, you know, you get to 5 years and counting, who knows however long it's going to last, of despair, and you got to, like, you sort of have to, you want to punch yourself in the face. You want to look in the mirror and punch yourself in the face, thinking back to all those days when it was like, man, I could do something else this Sunday. Like, wake me up when we get to the playoffs. Wake me up when we get to the AFC Championship game. That's when the season really starts. Enjoy the journey, man. Enjoy the hell out of the day-to-day of this team, because as Dan said, I mean, last year's performance, say what you want about the team, because there's been loads of debate about that, but the performance, the wire-to-wire performance of the regular season and the playoffs was historic by NBA standards. And this season could be even better. So enjoy the hell out of what you're seeing.
This is what I think is my biggest argument right now. And I did this on Barrett's show and Off the Pike the other day. I was like, he was talking about trading Drew Holiday eventually. I'm not letting anybody do this right now because I'm mad about last year still, that so many people were able to be like, well, until they win the title, who cares what they're doing in the regular season? Okay, you had that. Now it's my turn. Now it's Greenie's turn to tell you that what you're watching night to night from the Celtics team is historically relevant in terms of the greatest teams of all time. And if they somehow win this year again, you cannot deny anybody the fact that it's one of the best teams.
I already think you can't deny it. I already think you can. And it's interesting because I'm a firm believer in a season like last year. You get one of those in your lifetime, right? Like, just not only the record, but just like more 30-point wins than 10-point deficits, 12-2 on back-to-backs, never lost more than 2 in a row. Like, when you add it all, in totality, you get one of those a lifetime. And I think now that we're experiencing it, what looks to be again, it's just for me, and I'm sure for you guys, we're all around the same age. Like I was molded by the Rick Pitino years, like the darkest time in Celtics history is what I was grown in. Like I used to dream of winning 34 games, maybe, like that's why I think a younger, if you started, original big three era, or the big ticket big three era, these last 15 16 years, and you're in your mid to late 20s, you've only sort of known the Celtics in contention. Try a 15 and 67 season and then missing out on Tim Duncan and tell me how you feel. You know what I mean?
These guys don't remember Vin Baker, I'll tell you that right
now. Until you've had to convince yourself that Vitaly Potampeko is the next great big man. That's just why every time I watch them play, I just have the biggest smile on my face, because even in my wildest dreams, this is undoubtedly better than the KG Pierce era. Their on the court production is better. The way they're kicking the shit out of teams is better. It's just Missoula ball is a more entertaining product than the Dog Rivers clog the toilet offense. Everything is just better than I think any of us ever could have imagined. And eventually, like you said, Ev, the other shoe will drop and they'll have to make decisions. But that's a future Dan problem. Right now, it's just so, I'm just thankful, they got Al Horford their ring. So now I don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the legacy of your two best players forever. That's done. Everything that we've talked about going into a Celtic season as a concern and a worry, we just don't have anymore. And the only thing we're worried about is staying healthy, which is bizarre, in my opinion. It's just very unnatural for a franchise that I feel like we've been tortured 99% of my life.
It's a pretty appropriate show opening topic, obviously, being around Thanksgiving. We are thankful for this group and this team and these seasons and what we get to witness here. And I do because I've got stuff in my basement here up on the walls of the new Big Three era, which, remember, it's not the Big Three era like the people who were around for that, of Bird and McHale and Parrish and all those.
We're getting there, though.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they haven't, obviously, this group, that group, the new Big Three, never achieved what that group did, and that would have been insanely difficult. This group could. It could. I mean, it's going to take, obviously, a string of championships, and not just the one, not just two. You got to keep on going, obviously, but Lord knows they've got the talent and the chemistry and the mix and the group. Although I got to go back to what you were just saying with how this group is more special than that KG led group, and look, it in so many ways it is. I can't argue against that. But there's just something, and maybe it's more sentimental than anything else. I was a season ticket holder back then, and had season tickets for the entirety of that new Big Three era. I had just moved home from Texas at the time, and college buddies of mine and I, we went in and split a group of tickets and got the full season tickets, but obviously we didn't go to every single game, each of us individually, but we got the full season ticket package for for that whole stretch, all those years, the 7 years and into the first year of Brad Stevens. And there's just something, taking nothing away from Ray, most especially Paul, because he was as close as you could be of that group to being a career Celtic. But holy God, there was just something about KG that, we always say he came in and he transformed the culture. And even though he wasn't necessarily the face, he was the guy, and, he wasn't the number one scoring option, but still he was the one that stirred the drink, all the, label it however you want. But God, if we did that whole, you see it on social media sometimes, name one player you wish played for your team, his entire, but didn't. I mean, I guess there were a bunch that would be in the conversation for me across all sports, but KG as a career Celtic, and even if they only still won the one championship, I'm not even talking about heightening the production. I'm just talking about that dude being just around for 2 decades. Holy crap, what that would have been like.
I think for me, what's interesting, what the main difference is, like you said, like he came in, he changed it. We had never had like like the best player in the NBA join the Boston Celtics. You know, like he was at one point the best player in the NBA, which was crazy. And that whole run was more like legacy cherry on top for all those guys. The difference this year is like, this is what could be the birth of, like you said, the original big three, you know, Bird, McHale, Parrish level of, it's like the different end of the spectrum. Now they got their, you know, Larry Bird won his title early. Jason Tatum won his title in his, you know, before he's even in his NBA prime year. So it's like when KG was like our savior, the Tatum and Brown era is like our child that we've nurtured and we've watched grow and we've seen their progression. When the 08 team was assembled, it was like, okay, the Avengers are here, we're loading up, like we've just sort of, you know, taken over the league by storm and how we've constructed our roster of these legends. This time we're seeing the legends like create their legendary career, and it's just a different dynamic.
I'm not for, I want to be abundantly clear when I say this. I am not for one moment saying this is what it will be, or even necessarily this is what it could be, because the could be of this example I'm going to give is so otherworldly and historic by NBA standards. But I'm assuming to some degree, this is kind of what it felt like at the very beginning of like Jordan and Pippen. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like these guys at young ages teaming together, building everything around them. They're the dudes, and they're, you know, they're so young. These guys are younger than those guys were, you know, at the, like people say it all the time, like Tatum won before Jordan age wise, and LeBron and Durant and all these guys, like he's so ahead of where people thought, you know, you should be or have to be or need to be by those NBA age benchmarks that we always set. Like it is stupid what this team is capable of. Just, I'll say capable of, because nothing is guaranteed, you know, but the fact that they have started this year, you know, flirting with the best record in the NBA. We got another showcase coming up here to begin December against the Cavaliers to, you know, determine the top spot in the league here a quarter of the way through the year. But what they are doing right now, off of what they did last year, and now Porzingis is healthy, and just all of it. It's again, well, I've used the word already, but I'm thankful for just getting to witness this.
It's outrageous every night. It's unbelievable, and I can feel the hate from all the comments in the YouTube comment section being like, "These guys are homers." It's like, well, first off, yeah, true, okay, got it.
So
no.
Yeah, I know. Wow, really got me there. But like you talked about making, you know, becoming legends, to make this like somewhat like, you know, topical at this point. We're coming off a game last night, Bulls Celtics in Chicago, where the legend of Peyton Pritchard keeps growing by the day. 19 points in the fourth quarter. They would not have won that game last night without Peyton Pritchard going nuclear in the fourth quarter from 3-point range. And the confidence in which he takes some of these shots is unbelievable. You go back to the Cavs series from last year where he pulled up from like the logo. I think in the second half, I don't remember, it was the third or fourth quarter in the game, but it was a ginormous shot to take and make and keep the Celtics in that game. And eventually they won that game. I don't remember the final score, but like his legend grows by the day. He went from, I want off this team, to 6th man of the year in like 2 years. This guy's an absolute crazy man. You know, you got Sam Hauser, the final shot in the Chicago game. You have people overlaying that over a Larry Bird shot. Like, this is where we're at
he
this
made
point.
That same shot against the Hawks.
Yeah, and you had the whole Hawks bench like falling over, right? That great. Yeah. They're all. That's one of my favorite Larry Bird games of all time, because the Hawks bench is like cannot believe the show they're witnessing. And even I think, is it which guy? That is it? Fratello. Mike Fratello is the coach of the Hawks, I believe, at the time. And he yelled at his team for reacting this way, because it's like the greatest show in the NBA besides them and the Lakers. It's very similar here. Like, you just have every night another guy, like Tatum had 30 whatever and Brown had 20 whatever, but it's like these other guys that are just raising their own bars to get to where they need to be for this team to continue to do what they're doing. And again, like Kaufman just said, like I'm so thankful this team plays basketball all the time. And you guys remember the summer? It sucked. It was awful. There was not Celtics basketball on to occupy my time. So just again, enjoy the ride right now because every night is like historic. It's fantastic.
I mean, I would phrase it to you guys like this, right? Over the last 2 years, who would you say has had a down season, right? Like we've been getting the best case scenario of every player on the roster 1 through 15, right? Like Tatum and Brown, they're going to be consistent. But you mentioned Peyton Pritchard. We're at, the highest end of his spectrum these last 2 years. Sam Hauser, same thing. So it's like, aside
Derek
from
White is getting better by the night, like
right. So it's like the combination of their individual commitment to getting better, the empowerment that Missoula clearly has with them and how he's able to bring this out of them. And then you get them on the court and how the pieces fit together, which is the product of Brad Stevens' brain. It's like, this is why I think you have to appreciate it, because up and down the roster, every single person, like who saw Derek White turning into what Derek White has turned into? It's just the fact that you're getting literally, if you could close your eyes and picture the best case for every single player up and down the roster, that's what you get on a nightly basis, simply does not happen, let alone once. Now you're getting it, in back-to-back. I mean, we have a 218 game sample, give or take, of this type of basketball, and they were a rolled ankle away from making 3 straight finals. Like, it's just, we're in a Warriors dynasty type run right now. And I know in the Isaiah years, everyone kind of didn't want to, they're trying to be the Warriors of the East. They're trying to be, they don't have the horses. Like, this is what I imagine Golden State Warrior fans were saying after their first title of like, holy shit, this is every single night. You can't look away because, you have Peyton Pritchard going off for 19 in a quarter, the same way Steph Curry would go off for 19. It's unbelievable. I just can't stop smiling.
All right, let's take a quick break. Tell you today's show is powered by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everybody. I mean, you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Again, that's more or less on at least 2 players, and you can more than 100x your money. It's insane. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks, Ev.
Yeah, and look, so many things makes Prize Picks great, but in my opinion, it's all about flex play. I mean, Prize Picks offers so many great things and ways for you to, if it's not your day because of an injury or something like that, Prize Picks always helps you out. One of the games of the year is this Sunday for the NFL, Ravens, Eagles, a lot of points in this game, potentially, two high-flying offenses. Eagles play like one of the best teams in the league. Ravens, of course, Derrick Henry. I'm looking at this game. I want to grab some pictures in this game. I'm looking at A.J. Brown over 0.5 touchdowns, Saquon Barkley over 0.5 touchdowns, and Derrick Henry over 0.5 touchdowns.
Download the app today. Use code CLNS, that is code CLNS, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today. Use code CLNS, get $50 instantly after playing your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's get back to the show. So we keep alluding to this game against the Bulls, which was, for anyone that didn't watch, a 9-point win, 138-129. Not enough, right? Because this was a cup game, and it was, you got to win by at least 16 or you got to win by 30. All the numbers, people on social media, it was all over the place. Drew Carter on the broadcast, the TV broadcast, kept coming back to 16. Basically, what this is, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but I saw a tweet earlier today, which I think sums it up best if it's accurate. I believe it to be. For the Celtics to make the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup, it's essentially a parlay, if you will, of Bucks -6 against the Pistons and Magic money line against the Knicks. So you need Orlando to beat New York. You need the Bucks to beat Detroit by at least 6 points. And the Celtics at that point in time are, off to Vegas. Now, I don't Ev and I have talked about this. We had Cedric Maxwell on with us a couple weeks ago. We got into this quite a bit. I don't personally care at all about the NBA Cup. In fact, a large part of me doesn't even want them to win the cup, simply because I don't want that ridiculous, stupid banner up in the Garden rafters. You know,
I want them to win it just to see what happens. Like, I want the chaos of Wyc Grousbeck saying, "No, we're not going to." We're screw you, Adam Silver. We're not raising it. I kind of just want to see.
There's no chance that would happen. The banner would go up.
I don't know.
It's got. I'm sure it is. I mentioned this to Max, and I don't know because I haven't researched this, but it's got to be in the bylaws of the tournament agreement that every team signed. Like whoever, because I don't as much as I like to dog the Lakers. I don't believe they would have chosen to raise that banner. I really don't. So I think it is a
mandate.
It's a requirement, a mandate on the part of the league that stupid banner goes up. I hope the Celtics are the last team in NBA history to win the if it means that banner going up in the. I really seriously like let's keep talking about this for 30 years. However, this I did want to bring up. I do love the chaos of, as Joe Mazzulla put it, throwing all the unwritten rules out the window and just trying to win by margin. We saw it, with the fouling of, who was it, Andre Drummond last year when the Celtics were trying to get the score up. And in this one, a game that was well in hand, it was decided. Tatum comes down with a rebound with 1 point whatever seconds on the clock and calls a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, for a select group of us degenerates, a friend of mine, I got to shout out Jim Turvey over at Roto Grinders. He put this bet out pregame, and I tailed him on it because I thought it was just fun. And because of this absurdity of the end of this game, it wound up cashing. Thank you, Sam Hauser. And that was, the logic was, the Celtics, who knows if they're going to cover the full game spread, which was 11.5 for anyone that didn't play it. But in the fourth quarter, it was foot on the gas nonstop. And so he didn't just take the minus, 1.5 fourth quarter spread, laddered it up to minus 6.5 at, 2 or 3 to 1 odds, whatever it was. I think it was 2 to 1. But they were up at that point in time, they were up by 6 points in the fourth quarter when Tatum called that timeout. And the Hauser 3 makes it 9, cashes all your bets. But this is not about betting. It's about the absurdity of the lack of rules, I guess, where it's just, no, we're trying to win by as much as possible, to the point where we're going to call a timeout in a game that we have already won effectively with a second left on the clock, just so we can try and hit one more dagger in your dumb faces. And that is an element of the NBA Cup, Greenie, that I revel in. I'm all about that.
I'm almost of the thought, because again, this is the second year in a row where we're seeing Mazzulla take advantage of the point differential significance. I kind of almost want that to be like a playoff tiebreaker. Like right now, you go head to head, division record, conference record. Is it a stretch to think that if the tiebreakers for seeding was point differential, then you'd see teams really play a full 48 minutes? Like, if it's a difference between having home court, because you remember, like the last day of the year, everybody's playing at the same time, right? So you don't know like what everybody's score is, your scoreboard watching. Imagine if it's a situation like last night where you've won the game, but you call a timeout with a second left, and then you hit a 3, and that gives you home court advantage in your first round of the playoff series if you're a 4 or 5 seed. Like, of all the wacky ideas of the NBA Cup that, you can roll your eyes at, having importance around point differential, if they one day decided like, hey, this is now moving, this is after head-to-head or ahead of head-to-head in seeding tiebreaker, I think you could see teams playing through. Like, you wouldn't see the scrubs come in, the last 2 or 3 minutes. You wouldn't see them just hold the ball for the final possession and take the shot clock turnover. There could be something, down the line, if this continues to have these awesome, I mean, that was an objectively awesome moment. We all knew it was, why he took the timeout. So I don't know. I think there's something, he could be cooking up something in the future, as long as they keep putting the importance on scoring margin.
Yeah, I get that, but then there's like the unwritten rules part of like just rolling up the score at the end of games just to rub it in. Like,
stop him.
Right.
I know.
You can't have every game look like, last night did, where it's
why not? Why not? Every possession matters. Why not?
I get your point. I just think that like sometimes those like end of the game minutes when he goes to the bench squad, like that's like some of the only times that you're gonna get to see like Baylor Shireman at all. And
Yeah,
those guys
he's not
those
exactly hitting any shots.
yeah,
So.
but those guys need run though. Like those guys need to
Yeah.
get in the game. Like Jordan Walsh, like this is an important year for him to get on the floor as much as he possibly can. I love the fact that Missoula gave him time earlier in the year. And it's been harder to come by now because now everybody's starting to come back healthy. But like that's he needs to get out there. Like Shireman needs to get out there. It's more of a development thing for me than it is like a spirit of the game thing, but I can go either way on that. Look,
what if you just kept it for the play-in, right? So it's like,
oh well, there you go. Now we're talking.
So it's like to get out of the play-in, it has the same structure as the NBA Cup where point difference. I just kind of like the idea of incentivizing teams to play a full 48 minutes is kind of my point.
So do you guys, I mean, I've already made my feelings perfectly clear. Do you guys care at all about, obviously you want the Celtics to win game in, game out, and you never want the Celtics to lose. Mm-hmm. That goes without saying. Mm-hmm. But do you care about whether, they win the NBA Cup? Is this, I mean, I don't know that it's a priority for Joe Mazzulla. Like I'd like to say no, but then there are times that I see him chasing point differential like this and the competitor in him to where I do think he just wants to, win every game at all costs to where maybe it does matter. Do you guys ultimately care? It's not the most important thing, banner 19 is at this point in time, but is this a championship, an in-season championship that matters to you, Greenie?
I struggle because what I care, I'm like you said, like I don't put more attention or more weight when they play on Tuesdays or Fridays, like when they're on the court, I want them to win. Like that's just, I don't get more up for tournament games. I don't think a game like last night means more than a game tomorrow just because tomorrow isn't an NBA Cup game. But at the same time, it's like, if they're in it, you might as well win it. You know what I mean? It's like, don't exert yourself to win it. Don't, run your guys into the ground to do it. Keep the bigger picture, in mind. But if they don't make the knockout round, but still went 3-1, like I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The same way I didn't lose sleep when they lost to Indiana, aside from the fact that they just like lost the regular season game, not that they lost an NBA Cup game. And for me, I think that's the hurdle that I don't know how Adam Silver overcomes, because as long as the Larry O'Brien exists and you're a team that's in contention for that, that's always going to be the only thing that truly matters to me. But if you're a team like the Hawks, right, and you might not have a title chance, the NBA Cup can be a pretty big deal for the development of your rebuild. So I can understand the importance, but for me, it's kind of like, I'm not going to be heartbroken if they don't win it, but if they're in contention for it, I would like them to win just because, why not? If you're going to be in it, you may as well try.
Yeah, this is like the perfect outcome for me. They're going to go 3-1 in cup play and just not win by enough and not go. I'm like, this is perfect. This is great. They won their games. That's all you got to do. Just keep stacking W's and we'll get through this thing. And again, as long as everybody healthy, it doesn't really matter for me. Again, if they had won, gone to and go to Vegas, if they go to Vegas, like I will be excited. But like, this is really the best case scenario for me personally.
And I truly think they're going to say, fine, we'll hang the banner, but it'll be in the Arbach Center or something. Like they're just going to give, because, Adam Silver didn't let them have the parquet in the middle of their court last year. So I'm not ruling out the spite factor of Wick being like, I'm not going to tarnish my legacy of an owner by hanging that bullshit. So we're not doing it. So I'm holding out hope for that.
Just one more break. We got to tell you about Game Time. Today's show powered in part by Game Time. There's nothing better than going to a live game. I don't think I really need to tell our listeners that. You should just know you've been, right? You've been to at least one game. You know that so many core memories that you get as a kid, they revolve around going to a sporting event. Going to a game, it's just so much easier than it ever used to be, and that is thanks to our friends at Game Time.
Yeah, Game Time's got this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And they filter out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, which sucks. Game Time also filters through some of the BS when it comes to navigating tickets. And if you're looking to be a little spontaneous, well, Game Time will show you who's playing in your neck of the woods, just in case you want to hop in the car and make adventure out of it. Like, you log into Game Time into the app, like, all of a sudden you're going to have all these things that are near you. And they also have like these feature tickets for $50 and under. So if you're not trying to go crazy, I know sometimes it can be hard to get to, some of these games because the prices are crazy, not with Game Time, but they can be. But having this little feature where you could just look at $50 and under tickets, that's the best, Kaufman. Plus, they have all-in pricing, so you know what you're gonna pay at checkout. You get a panoramic view from your seat, the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Again, nobody's doing this kind of stuff, Kaufman.
No, I mean, it's so totally unique. Again, Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, as I've outlined. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms do apply. Create the account, redeem a code, CLNS, that's your code, $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Let's get back to the show. Well, the next game of the year, first game of the year was the first matchup with Cleveland, right? So the next game of the year begins December, and that is tomorrow as we sit here. It is Sunday, 6 o'clock Eastern start. And we saw these two teams, match up a couple Tuesdays ago. It was November 19th, and Boston, got out in front by a lot, ultimately only won that game by 3 points. Tatum had a solid game. We don't run down the box score, but Boston is coming into this one 16-3. Cleveland, took that first loss of the year after a 15-0 start to the Celtics, now out to a 17-3 start. So again, this game is determining first place in the Eastern Conference and in the entire NBA for that matter, because Oklahoma City leads the West at 15-4. Again, we're a quarter of the way through the year, so there's no more importance of this game than it is just, another measuring stick game, another one on the schedule against a team that a lot of people are viewing as a threat to you, whatever level of threat, a threat to you in the Eastern Conference, obviously. Now, I like the Cavs in that I do think they are a challenge. I don't think of all the teams you could face in the Eastern playoffs, if, projecting full health across the board, that they would be your toughest out. But I think they would be harder than some. Like I think Cleveland would be a tougher out than, Philadelphia, if the Sixers ever got their crap together, which, by the way, they won't. They're not going to the playoffs. They're not even going to the play-in. They're 3-14. They are a disaster, a complete dumpster fire. But Milwaukee has turned its poor start around out to a 9-9 start, so they're going to be there. Knicks are obviously going to be there. Max, when he was on with us, said that he believes Orlando. I don't know if it was clickbait or if he really believes this, but with Paolo back, whenever he thinks Orlando is your biggest threat in the Eastern Conference. Winners of 5 in a row, 9-1 over the last 10, now to a 14-7 start. We're all going to have PTSD forever with Miami until I don't know, Riley, Spoelstra, Butler, they're all gone, whatever it is. And Indiana is in the play-in mix. So, there are teams that we can debate how viable we really think they are. What do these games against Cleveland specifically mean to you?
So there's two things. First, it has to be so deflating for them to have like the 5th best start in NBA history, and then you get to Thanksgiving and you're basically potentially not even in first place. That has to be so deflating for them. But these games, no matter when they happen against Cleveland, are important for a few reasons. First, head-to-head tiebreaker, right? If they're going to play at a similar pace for the Celtics and there's a chance you could finish with the same, record, then, when it comes to home court in the playoffs, head-to-head tiebreaker is always important. The second is, if the Celtics somehow don't make the knockout round of the play-in, Cleveland's already eliminated, which means you're going to have an extra game against the Cavs, which may come in handy down the road for tiebreakers. So I always think that anytime you're playing a team that is playing great basketball, I think their quality of play, their shooting may not be sustainable, but how they're playing, the connectiveness that they share, Kenny Atkinson, how he's having them move off ball and cut, that's all sustainable things to me. I think healthy, they have the defense that can maybe not guard you because they are a little spotty on the wing, but they very well may finish with a top 5 defense in the league. And I just think you're only going to get so many quote unquote measuring stick opportunities, given how talented the Celtics are. So for me, I think it's like psychological warfare tomorrow. It's like you guys are riding high. You think that you're off to this great start and you're in contender, but like, here comes the big bad wolf to show you what it really means to be a contender. And I think, these are the opportunities where the Celtics need to remind themselves and the rest of the league, like, you're a cool story. It's fun to have another good team in the East when there aren't really that many, but there are levels to get to where you think you're ready for. And honestly, it'll be nice to see both sides. Hopefully, I'm not sure what the Cavs' health status is, but Porzingis has only played once against the Cavs. Like, we haven't really seen the Celtics at full strength go up against them. So I'm interested from a matchup perspective. Like, how does that all shake out if they're going to have the 2 bigs on the floor and you have Porzingis and Al? Like, do you match them? Do you bring Jared Allen away from the rim? Like, there's a lot of schematic things that I think we haven't seen yet, just because both sides haven't really, had their full rosters available.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that you can actually like learn something from a basketball game. I said last year, whenever they played Denver, it was like hugely important because you get to learn about your team a little bit more than you do in a game against. I always pick on Charlotte, so let's go like Detroit, right? You're going to learn more about your team when you play a much better team, a team that has championship aspirations. So just from a matchup standpoint, as Greenie said, what does this look like with KP on the floor? How do they, maximize the killer whale offense to pick on people? Like, I can't wait to watch KP post up Darius Garland. It's going to be great. But when it comes down to tiebreakers at the end of the year, like, you're going to want home court. That's a fact. Like, I know Boston can go on the road and win playoff games, but you prefer if you didn't, that'd be nice. Right. So, in game 7s are always better in your building. That is a fact. So, again, you want to say they all matter, but this one matters a little bit more. And I'm curious to see how the Celtics come out and assert their dominance from the jump.
And I think it should be important to say, like, people always say, oh, it's important, and then they lose. It's like, oh, well, it's regular season. No. Like, these are the matchups where it's kind of a big deal if you lose it, and it's a big deal if you win it. And I think, even though it's only going to be December 1st, they all matter to some degree. But like I've said, like, there are a select few, like when they play Oklahoma City, when they play, Denver again, when they play, the true contending teams, like, these are the ones where you get to see, okay, we know we can beat up on the Bulls when we need to. We know we can handle, the Sixers if we need to, or the Bucks, whatever. These are the ones where it's like, okay, they're going to be motivated because of what happened in the first meeting. Now they're at home. It's just going to be fun to watch.
So Celtics have won 7 straight with this game over the Bulls. Derek White, I know, left that game with an injury, but told Missoula after the fact that he's fine. So Celtics are fully healthy. We'll see if everyone, in fact, plays in this game against Cleveland. Should, honestly, have the injury report a little bit later on today as we sit here right now. But, look, they understand the magnitude of this contest just in terms of, again, that measuring stick element of it. So it not being a back-to-back, or at least, it's the front end of a back-to-back. I don't like, I would imagine, I'd be surprised if Horford sits this one and plays, against Miami, let's say. I think it's that they want to go out and everyone's going to be available against Cleveland, and we see what happens against Miami. So basically, again, this being a quarter point check-in on the season, more or less, anything that has, I don't know, either you're still looking to learn, we've seen very limited Porzingis this year, but we know how he fits in, or anything that has exceeded your expectations, before we put a bow on this show.
I'm still waiting. I'm still apprehensive on their defense, right? Like, I think it's a mix between coasting and not having Porzingis. Now when he's back, you can see their rim protection is certainly better, but they're still giving up way too many points for my liking. So that's something that I'm just curious to see. Is it real regression, or is it just we're going through the motions? We know, like, we can lock in when we need to. I don't exactly love that approach because they didn't really have that last year. They were just nails from the first week of the season on. Over surprising, I think it has to be Pritchard, right? Just his ascension into this, off the bench 20-point scorer is pretty crazy. And I just think it's a little surprising that they've just hit the ground running the same way. The point differential is the same. It's just like a continuation. I was expecting it to be like the second Warrior or the first Warriors year compared to their Kevin Durant title year where they were historic. Like, you're still dominant, but not historically dominant. You're getting the same historical point differential again, which is, again, almost unheard of. So I think for me, the fact, actually, now that I think of it, the biggest surprise might be the fact that they didn't lie to us about Porzingis' injury. That it actually wasn't as bad, and he came back sooner than I thought
he would. Yeah.
When have we ever had that result of a major leg injury to a 7-footer? I feel like it's never turned out that way. So that's a pleasant surprise for sure.
No, I was saying all throughout however long since the injury, like, don't be surprised if he's not back till January.
Right.
Christmas time. Like I pre-Thanksgiving blew my mind. And
exactly. It's never happened.
There was no rush whatsoever. Like they could have bubble wrapped him until the new year and people would have been totally fine with it because of how the team has been playing. But I appreciate, especially with his reputation, Ev, before, pre-Boston, the reputation that's fair or unfair, I have no idea. We didn't follow him as closely in his other stops, but the pre-Boston reputation surrounding Porzingis didn't scream guy who can't wait to be back on the floor. So the fact that, he came back, as urgently as he did and was, pressing on the team to be a part of this was just another feather in his cap, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it's come out that they knew he was going to come back early. I think when they went to Abu Dhabi, like, they kind of already knew that he was going to be ahead of schedule. So you got to give him credit. And like all the whatever people thought about Porzingis before he got to Boston, that's all been erased. And the only thing is, like, he does get injured quite often. But when you're 7'3" and that's just going to happen more often. Ask Joel Embiid how that's going. But again, everything's going better than you could have expected coming off a championship season, and it's remarkable that we're saying that. And there's still so much more season to go. But I think everybody's got a clear picture of how this needs to go. By the time we get to April, what it needs to look like. When they get into the playoffs, what it needs to look like. So the fact that everybody's moving in the same direction and has the same mindset, that's wonderful stuff. And that's how champions repeat.
Yep. All right. So Celtics at Cleveland this time, and that is Sunday night. Hopefully people tune in for it. It's a good way to wrap up the long weekend, and then back home against the Heat. And then Wednesday against the Pistons, and maybe a Thursday show next week for us to, review what has gone on before a primetime matchup, nationally televised, Friday, December 6th, at home on ESPN against the Milwaukee Bucks. So, again, number 600 in the history of Celtics Beat here on CLNS, and truly no better guest to join us for it. Dan Greenberg. He is Barstool Greenie to many of you out there on on Barstool, and putting his columns, his blog posts together. He's out there occasionally, and I haven't seen as many of the Twitter Spaces as maybe last season.
They still have that? Did Elon kill those? Do those still exist?
I honestly, I think they exist. I don't know. I'm not sure. Elon is really messing with the algo. That's for damn sure. But Greenie, we love having you on, bud. We'll do it again real soon.
Of course, appreciate it, guys.
For Dan Greenberg, for Evan Valenti, I am Adam Kaufman. We are all collectively thankful for these Boston Celtics this time of year and all times of year. Big matchup coming up on Sunday. See ya.